right, so I'm going to be kind of emulating some of the presenters that came before me, right? It's a big thing at conferences to come in and tell you about the future, right? Mr. McKinsey did, and he's always on the forefront of that. But I want to do a little bit of both, right? I want to tell you about the future and what we need, and explain myself by going back a little bit to the past. Before I do that, my title, which I got to point at the right screens here, the next generation, who immediately went to Roddenberry? Anyone? No? No one? Okay, fair enough. I can go ahead and skip my trademark infringement then. So about 7,000 years ago, humans made a really interesting discovery and an interesting decision, right? Kind of before that point, we were living and dying with the seasons, and if you made it through, you were lucky. Because before that, the idea had been, if I have a thing, I have a thing. If I have food, I should eat the food, right? It makes sense. Well, we started doing a really interesting thing in that not trading with each other, we started trading with something none of us could see. The future. Now that sounds really strange, and in a way it is. But especially in northern climates, this was essential. If you don't have food, if you don't have wood, you're gonna die. That's rough, right? Who's here from the Nordic countries, right? Sweden, Finland, there's always a lot of you guys. You guys are the kings of this. No one is surviving -30. It's not going to happen. Well done. You figured it out actually just after, I think it was Sumer. So good job to you guys. But that's a really interesting thing. And we're kind of running into sort of the same problem here. We as engineers are very focused on what we have to do. I know I'm not the only one who spends a lot of my off hours retraining, looking up things, and trying to figure out what is going to come next, right? Well, while we're doing this, we kind of forget where we were 10, 20 years ago, for some of you even 5, right? And I don't mean our hair, because hair is allergic to RF, I guess. But I mean the bargain that hopefully some of us have made previously with someone else. You see, younger engineers and even recent grads, they represent us back in time, and in a way we represent them forward, right? That's kind of a convoluted way of looking at it, but that's what it is. So if we want our industry to advance, we have to make that same bargain with the future with these younger folks, or even maybe some older folks looking to change careers, right? I really got into Wi-Fi, I guess, kind of late. I used to climb towers, and I never thought I'd be here. It's a common refrain, right? I think 2 or 3 speakers have already mentioned it. No one wakes up and says, I want to be a wireless engineer, right? It's a lot of fun. It's a cool community, which is kind of what this is about, but no one really gets there. And so that bargain with the future that we have to make is sharing some of our knowledge and our experience with these younger cats. Younger to the industry, again, or younger objectively. I don't know about you guys, but I've made a horrendous amount of mistakes, both in my career and in my person. And I didn't know, actually, before I did this research, that this was an Otto von Bismarck quote. I thought it was just something my dad said, because if you don't have a journal of stuff your dad said, then you're missing out. So it's a good thing. Only a fool learns from his own mistakes. The wise learn from mistakes of others. Who's made a mistake in here? Okay, who counts this suit as a mistake? There's like 5 honest of you. That's cool. Okay, I'm going to run out of time, so I'm going to try to rush a little bit here. So that doesn't say Heracles for those Greek nerds out there. I did not mistype that. It's Hierocles. Hierocles was one of the first Stoics, kind of the Zeno and Aurelius line. He had an interesting idea that sort of dovetails with what I've been talking about how to achieve the most good. He theorized that it's a sort of concentric circle. And it's actually 2 sets, so I'm sure if UC's still here, he can give us a cool 3D imaging of this like he's been doing with the APs, right? Where it starts with you, and it moves out. You can see in the diagram there. But not only does it do that relationally, like relational space, spatial, you get the idea, but it does that in time, too, right? If something's good for me, my family, and my friends now, better is me, my family, and my friends in the future, right? So we kind of come together with the earlier point. It doesn't seem that novel, but it really is, because we don't make decisions like that. I guess, if you've ever been part of the sales process, sales guys would probably hate me for saying this. I'll let you figure out what I'm getting at there. So one of the interesting things about the social behaviors that we present is that, unlike RF, these interference patterns that our actions can present do not simply conserve the amount of energy that we started with. If you can get one person, and again, back to the sales guys, one person in your audience excited about your product, and he gets another friend excited about your product, there's more excitement than just came off of you, the sales guy, no matter where you took them for lunch. So the idea is kind of to leverage this, right? And start building a person at a time. I'm actually going to skip a little bit of this, but the point is we have to do it bit by bit. And the way we're going to push the industry forward is through the people who make up the industry. I'm going to say something that's probably going to get me in trouble, but Cisco has never done a thing for the industry. Cisco is a business. They do great things, fair enough, but they're not as concerned with you and me. And I'm not biting at Cisco here. NIST, you can put whoever you want in there. If we are concerned about the people in this room and the people who want to be in this room, we have to do that. So what I propose is a more personal take on something we see institutionally having to do for ourselves. How many of you have spent hours and hours at home staring at a book, wondering, A, who the heck wrote this, and B, what am I doing with my Friday night? Okay, engineers aren't the most social, so maybe some of you chose it. I know I have a couple times. But let me propose something different. Find someone who needs the help and offer it to them. I had an old Kung Fu teacher way back in the day who said, you don't really understand something till you've taught it. And I'm sure the bevy of people here can attest to that. You don't realize where the gaps in your knowledge are until you try to actually give it to someone else. So what does it take to be a mentor, right? You've got the fun bullet points there. But the short version is basically who you are right now as an engineer, except talking to people who need it. That's what they need from you. They don't need just about anything else but your words and your wisdom and your guidance. It is terrifying to be trying to start a new career and not know where to go. You know what the number one fear humankind harbors is? Just out of curiosity, anyone? It's the dark, actually. But it's not precisely the dark, it's the unknown. And if you think back, I know I did, when I was first trying to jump off, it was terrifying. And that's why. I didn't know where to go, what to do, and people were telling me I had to spend horrendous amounts of money to even be qualified to ask someone for a role. This question is a little easier. What is a mentee? It's anyone who is willing to reach out for help. But if they reach out, you have to reach down as well. I want you to remember that. So I have to talk about this because I'm up here, right? Where do the hats come in? Well, something I've been doing is selling hats to try to provide funding to alleviate some of that price anxiety. Because I don't know if you guys remember working minimum wage, $300 is terrifying on minimum wage. But if we can get one person to take one test to get one job, when they're making six figures, how many more are they going to be able to help? Just try to remember who you were, and I'm out of time now, so I'm going to leave you with something a little pithy. When I was at my lowest, I was trying to rationalize things, and I came up with sort of one sentence that defined everything. What I wanted to be was the person I needed most. So that's what I'll leave you guys with. Think back, find someone, and be the person you wish you had. Thank you.